This is the review show on a Monday. Myself, Adrian Horton, joining you. And this man, it's been far too long. One of my favourites, Ryan Sinclair, the champion of the Demon Army. My friend, welcome.
Mate, it is still good to be here. It's always a pleasure to be part of the debrief. You know, I love you guys and the work you do. So happy to be here. Expected to be here under slightly better circumstances, but such is the role of the ball and the bounce and the whistle that some people in green or yellow or whatever they wear seem to play with yesterday. So yeah, I'd love to think we can control our destiny all the time.
Oh, it's such a tough one to take. It's really funny. I've gone through the roller coaster of emotions today. It's so hard doing post-match content when it's so raw, and that was yesterday for myself, Caden McDonald, Alex Zorkis. A shout out to those two great men. But we were at Melbourne Apartment Collection, one of our sponsors, last night, a mere 45, 50 minutes after the game. We jump on, we do a record, and I couldn't help myself, Ryan. I had to speak about the men in fluoro. I just couldn't help myself. It was so apparent for all to see that we definitely got the wrong end of the stick in terms of some of those diabolical free kicks paid and some of the non-free kicks paid that we didn't get. But it's really funny when you come full circle now and we're almost 24 hours post-game, and where I've landed and where I typically land is we had our opportunities. And yes, we're up against it. Collingwood are a formidable outfit. The way they closed it out was exceptional. You've got to give them some credit. They're very good at managing the clock and managing those situations when it gets tense and tight. And now I'm just fixating on some of those chances that we gassed late in that last quarter and far out. If we fixate on them too much, Ryan, they'll make us go insane, because it was just the same thing. Melbourne, when it gets tense, it gets tight. We just find ways to butcher it. We find ways to make poor decisions. And the most frustrating part is we did so many things right for the whole day. We just couldn't close it out.
Well, it's exactly as you say. I don't know how I could sum it up any better, because it was such a day that upon reflection, driving home, listening to, I'm still waking up with my beanie hair. I haven't bothered about that. Not that I should anyway. It looks terrible no matter what I do, but beanie hair's the day. I feel like I'm sort of like footy hungover. Like I just have no motivation to get up and attack the current world, because we had it robbed from us. But at the end of the day, we were in a situation where we controlled our own destiny and we didn't. And as much as the men in fluoro didn't do a good job, and we know that, we also didn't in front of goal too. And so we can argue one way and we can argue the other, but if we did better in front of goal, as per the last realistically 5 years, we wouldn't even be sitting here having that conversation. I'd be sitting there with some surf wax in the hair and I'd be smiling. So
Yeah, and it's a common thing, and Max Gorn even spoke about it this morning when he was doing his review on Triple M, as he does every week, and he was very candid and upfront about the fact that we've been here before. We've been in these big games. When the pressure's on, when the heat's on, our forward 50 connection has fallen down, and our goal kicking has unfortunately been the other thing that has let us down. And you could hear it in his voice, Ryan. He's sick and tired of talking about this, because Simon Goodwin has been speaking about it ad nauseum as well. Connection, method, connection. It's like a broken record. It just never seems to go away. Collingwood yesterday were clinical. They were always going to be. I think the fact that we keep them to a score of 72 is really impressive from a defensive standpoint. It's just the 10-11. The 10-11 is better than the 7-21 from last week against St Kilda.
yeah,
But ultimately, it's just another game that's cost us. Our skill execution going inside, our inability to kick it through the big sticks. I can hear it in Max's voice. You can hear it in my voice. I'm just fucking sick and tired of talking about the same thing. It's lost as finals as well, Ryan. They're
absolutely.
etched in our minds as well. When are we going to get over these hurdles and these bumps along the way, and just these self-inflicted bruises that we have to carry as Melbourne supporters? We do so much right. We're great with clearance. We're great with territory. We're tough. We're hard at it. We're a brutal side to come up against. And I think all the best teams in the competition often speak about that, and even the coaches do as well. And Craig McRae was very complimentary of the way that we played yesterday. But we just sit here and we constantly shooting ourselves in the foot. I'm just so sick and tired of saying the same thing.
And it feels like it's deja vu, not deja vu, because it is the same conversation. We did it against Hawthorn. We kicked ourselves out of that game. What happened against St Kilda and Alice? Look, if anyone looks in that one and says St Kilda won that game, well, they may have watched a different game to what I saw, because we handed that to them. That they did not outplay us in anything but the scoreboard, and I know that is the end result of the game. I'm not being naive about that, but even yesterday, again, we dominated every facet that was important about the game, but the scoreboard. And it's because of bad kicking. It's not anything else. I don't know when it's going to fix. I don't know if it's ever going to fix up. And I don't know if it's under the reign of Simon Goodwin that the only reason we're having these issues. I'm not sure. I mean, we had a ruckman as a forward coach for a long time, but it seems like a very strange scenario that Greg Stafford was running a forward line, because I can't imagine that, as much as everyone loves Max and we'd be happy to see him in any facet, he's not going to be a forward coach when he comes back. So there's decisions along the way that are a bit raising question marks, and our kicking has never been something that's been good, and every other facet of our game from defence and midfield has been. I mean, credit where credit's due. The forwards don't get the delivery the way we would like, but we are costing ourselves. And quite ultimately, if we want to dig deeper, it probably cost ourselves a grand final, because if we had beaten Collingwood and got that home preliminary final, who knows where that would have gone. And I think that year was certainly open for anyone's taking. So we have to be harder on it. We have to be better on it. We have definitely cost ourselves. Realistically, our last 8 games have been damn good. So that turnaround has been huge, and we arguably could have won every single one of those 8 games. I'm always very confident. I'm always very bullish, but I was not concerned about walking into this week, because, okay, it's a big part of our game. We don't do well, but if we kick straight, not many teams are getting near us.
Tend to agree that it's starting to become a season of missed opportunities. GWS conceivably could have, should have, would have. We're going to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating part. Hawthorn, the 7-14, again, game could have almost been out of reach for Hawthorn come 3/4 time. We kept them in it. They played 10, 15 minutes of footy. They blew us away in the last quarter. They shouldn't have even been in that position.
No.
St Kilda, we've spoken about. We don't need to go back through the horror show that was in front of the big sticks. And then yesterday. So we sit here 5-8 after that terrible 0-5 start. However, we could be sitting here with 7 wins, 8 wins, and suddenly we're talking about winning a final this year and maybe laying a platform, maybe even being a sneaky chance of going all the way. And people might think that's an overreach, but the reality is there are 4 games right there that I think Melbourne were in control of.
Yep.
And they've inexplicably just given them away through poor execution and poor kicking in front of goal. The other flip side to that is people will just say, well, it's bad football. You've got to finish off your work. And you know what? They're right. We have to finish off our work. But in terms of general play and all the other facets of our game, how we've improved from the defensive half. I love our forward handball game from the back half now. I think we've figured that out. I love the way that guys like Disco and even Howes yesterday I thought was impressive. McVee, Bowie, they're all working so well as a defensive unit. Jake Lever was getting back to somewhere near his best yesterday. Steven May was Herculean. We'll talk about the spat at some point with Max. But defensively behind the ball, we're really sound and we look really good. From a midfield perspective, we've never really had problems with winning it at the source. It's just how we fix those final 2 components. I don't know. And I've almost come to this place where I don't know if it's fixable with some of our senior heads in the side who are some of the greats that we've ever had, and we cherish them and we love them. But I've spoken about this before on this show. Max Gorn, let's just leave Max to the side. He's a 208 centimetre ruckman. He drops the ball from a ridiculously high point. Let's just let him off the hook. He's kicking to the corridor to, I think he was trying to pick out Bowie, Costas though, and he shouldn't have that responsibility. It's more guys like Christian Petrarca, Clayton Oliver, Jack Viney, and I'll throw Ed Langdon in there as well. Mm. It's these guys that are so good at winning it, and they're ferocious, and they're as competitive and combative as any players in the league. But these are the same type of guys that when it's close, when it's tight, the heat is on, the pressure's on, they're not composed enough.
Yep.
And there are examples yesterday where Scott Pendlebury, steel side bottom, who just always seemed to do a number on us, they showed their class. They showed their composure. It goes down the other end. Clary blazes away in that last 2 minutes of the game, out in the full. He had handball options everywhere to potentially stream into 50. Shots on goal, doesn't take them. The red mist that Gary Lyon has spoken about before. And similar thing for Christian Petrarca. Steel side bottom, bins one from 50.
Yeah.
A great goal down your end, unfortunately. And then 2 minutes later, Christian's streaming into forward 50 and he blazes away and misses a shot. And that's the difference. And this is the thing. I don't know if these blokes will ever tidy up to the level that we want them to as supporters. I think it's just ingrained. It's bad habits.
Yep.
They're always going to be slightly average or average exponents by foot. But that's why I get bullish about we're replenishing this side with better kicks. So guys like Judd McVie, Jake Bowie, Xavier Lindsay, Harvey Langford, et cetera, this is why we've gone out and recruited those guys, because clearly there's a drawback with some of the great names that I've mentioned and players that, again, we love dearly and they're decorated players of this football club. But Ryan, I think it's just that realisation. And if you haven't had that realisation yet and you're not on board with me yet, I think yesterday was another example that as good as those senior heads are, they hurt us a bit in terms of execution, and they have in the last 3 or 4 years. And it's hard to say that because we love them, but they're just not up to that polish level, that skill level of some of the best teams in the competition.
Yeah, you're right, and that's what we've seen, and that was the difference, as you say, Collingwood, and even to a lesser extent, not to go backwards, but St Kilda, we were seeing them go up and use the ball correctly, and within 10, 15 seconds, a turnover, and we're getting scored against, yet we would control play for 10 minutes, and we weren't scoring. And they're the frustrations. We get good run-ons, and it's coming out of the back line. It seems to be coming out reasonable, quite confident with how it's coming out. They seem to be quite level-headed down back, and that's the one area you could excuse people for not being calm, because it's the one area where it's really chaos football 90% of the time. It can come out under not duress, but a lot of the time it's game on, and we're somehow doing that a lot better than we are through the midfield. I don't know the answer, as you say, and I don't know if there is a current answer right now, because there was a guy we missed big time yesterday and would have been phenomenal in Jack Viney, but he's also someone that doesn't enter his delivery of the ball is very questionable at the best of times, much like his dad. But they're the sort of in and under players that you have to build your football club around. Max is the greatest ruckman of all time, but he's not the greatest kick of all time. And so I don't know what happens there. Track someone that could be wearing a Charlie around his neck, and obviously so could Clary. But both of them from the start of their career to now have never been notorious for their use and execution of skills. So it's working around that. And we know that. That's happened with there's been plenty of best and fairest and Brownlow medalists at other clubs that have held the trophy at the end of the year that haven't used the ball well. The problem I think that we have, which you've clearly addressed, is that we have a lot in the main part of the ground, and that is a huge concern.
It is. I'm still, as I said, I'm still glass half full, because I think from a recruitment perspective, we've identified that. We've gone after some players. There's a really good core group there that do use the ball well by foot that are coming through. Let's talk about Max and Steven. And before we talk about Max and Steven, which has blown up and it's been a big fucking coverage over the last 24 hours and blah, blah, blah. Everyone's got their say on it. Even a mate who's a TV celebrity, a comedian who supports the other side from yesterday, I won't name him, he's like telling me what he thinks and, Stephen May's bad for culture and this. I'm like, get stuffed. No, shut up. Leave it alone. You're not even allowed to have a comment, so go away. But everyone's having their say on it. I'll just quickly, before we get to it, Max Gorn takes a mark. There's 40 odd seconds on the clock. He's deep in his back half in D50. The torp doesn't come off. And he explained it on Triple N this morning. He was just trying to get some height on it, right? And he had a good laugh saying, well, I laced out Will Hoskin-Elliott. He's a good sport.
Yeah.
And he had to go for a kick that was corridor-esque, or at least into the corridor, because I could see Cameron down the line on the members' wing, and he didn't want to kick it down there. It would have been a silly kick. So he had to go for it. I think it's a non-point, that kick. I just don't think there's much in it. The reality is, what were our chances from scoring from that position anyway, with that much time on the clock? He doesn't execute it. Get over it. It is what it is. Steven May having a dig at him on the field. Is it a poor look? Yeah. Is it two passionate footballers who want to win, are born winners, aren't happy with where our season are at? Absolutely.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. I just think if I'm going to play sides, Steven, you got a little bit of a track record. I'd probably just keep that one in the sheds. This is the skipper of the football club. He's got more runs on the board. He's as decorated a demon as any. He is one of our greatest ever. Just keep it in the sheds. I don't blame Max for reacting the way he did. I probably would have done the same thing. I'd have been like, get stuffed, get out of my grill, take it behind closed doors. But I think that's it. That's all it is. Is it a poor look? Yeah, it is a little bit. Is it more than that? I wouldn't have thought so, because this is two grown men who can flesh it out together, have a bit of a laugh, and just ensure that there's no residual effect from this. And I don't think there will be. No. And that's where I think the overreaction comes from, Ryan. People pointing to that word culture again, and, this just speaks volumes about people's culture. What hogwash.
Yeah.
You're isolating a 10-second clip and then just creating the biggest overreach I've ever heard in my life. So that's where I stand with it. It's a little bit of a poor look, but not much more to see here. Play on.
I couldn't agree more. I have no problems with it whatsoever. I think we are playing a really physical game, 120 plus minutes of physical football. It's an emotional sport. It's a physical sport. It's demanding. It's taxing. It's spoken about from the second the ball is bounced to the second it is not. Those reactions, if you think that people in that moment aren't going to react and maybe want to take something a little bit back, but let's be honest, it's not like they grabbed each other around the throat. They got a little bit frustrated. I like the idea that no matter who you are, you're held accountable. Max should be untouchable. We know that. He's the greatest, probably one of the greatest people we've ever had at our football club. And he will have a statue one day, and he rightly so. But he's still being held accountable for something and that they didn't think went well. Now, I agree entirely. That kick had to happen. We were behind that area, and it was the only possible way we could have scored. He didn't execute it, but you had to go for it. If we didn't, all we would have done is played safe football, got up to the wing, and the siren would have gone. And then we would have been frustrated we didn't take it on. He took it on, and he didn't execute. I have no problems with Steven May and Max's altercation. I think it shows hunger and a desire that people have questioned us about not having. And I don't know the end result as to what the media want. Do you want robots? You know, we're already living in this bizarre world where no one can say what they think, and you can be playing North Melbourne or West Coast and you've still got to come up with a 5-minute description on how you think they're good quality sides, even if you don't believe it. So we're turning people into a product that we're then bagging because we're saying, they give us nothing. Well, it's the same with Christian Petrarca. The media had a problem with Christian all off season. He wasn't committed to Melbourne. Then against Geelong, he shows emotion on the field and he's hung out to dry because he's actually showing emotion. Now he's showing too much emotion. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Ideally, that doesn't happen on field. But as a Melbourne fan, I can't see how you'd be overly disappointed with the fact that they care. And if that doesn't show that they care, then I don't know what you want to see. I just look at it and think that would happen in local football 9 out of 10 times. If we ended up having a quick turnover, went up and won, that would have been highlighted as the key turnaround in the game, because that would have said Steven May held the captain of the football club accountable, and because of that, Melbourne turned it over and went up and kicked a winning score or the winning goal. So all it comes down to, it's a story because we lost by 1 point. That is not getting any air if we went up and scored. And if that happened, so it's a moot point. I think it's going to be addressed internally. But okay, it's not the greatest look, as I've said, but we've got to be careful we don't turn these people into robots, because we want them to care, because they're getting paid a lot of money to do what they do. They're damn good at what they do. And a lot of people don't feel like players are actually invested in it other than the paycheck. So then the one time we allow and we see them invested, everyone turns on them. So how do you win as a player?
You can't win. It's the media just do what they please. They've got the platforms. Storm in a teacup, you hear it all the time.
Yep.
They'll do it about any football club, maybe except Collingwood.
Well,
the protected species of the AFL, along with Geelong, of course. But I mean, yeah, it's just not much of a story for me.
it's not. It's a
Just like,
standalone game on a Monday, and there's nothing else to talk about. A great result. The team that clearly wasn't the better side won. You're not going to talk about that. So let's brew up another situation. Melbourne lose the winnable game, and their captain's in an argument on field with another player. Seriously, go follow every single AFL game. If you don't think two players don't go at each other verbally throughout a game, you got rocks in your head. It happens all the time. Steven sits, we have the pleasure of being behind Steve for 50% of all of his games, because we obviously sit behind the goals. And I have seen that man blow up when we've been 86 points up. And he has absolutely dropped every expletive you can possibly imagine and yelled and pointed and carried on like anything else. But it's not a story because we're winning by 86 points. But that's also Steve. And I think Max would have said that. I didn't hear the interview this morning, but I'm sure Max would have said, well, that's just Steve. He wears his heart on his sleeve. And, it wasn't a physical altercation. So we need to just calm down. That a tackle, a half tackle, a non-laid tackle was 10 times more aggressive than that.
I love how Tom Morris comes out on SEN and he's like, oh, I've actually caught wind. I've got word of what Stephen said to Max. And he's like, oh, this is the version of events that I've been told.
Yeah.
What a beat up. You don't have a fucking clue. You don't have a clue what was said, brother. Like,
we could tell him what more likely what he said, because we were about 10, 15 metres away from it. Tom Morris needs to just go back to playing Chinese whispers in the schoolyard. He would have had 3 friends. They would have been the primary school teacher, the librarian, and probably his mum. And that's the only people who would have spoken to him at school, and they would have all been around outside of the playground, and he would have been spreading rumours and running around with no friends. He's just that sort of a human being.
Oh, Tommy, it was hilarious.
Just grow
I
up,
couldn't
mate.
believe it.
Yeah, just grow up.
I couldn't believe it.
I know you've got a job to do, but anyway.
Sure. Well, I just thought it was hilarious. It's like, oh, I'm a news hound. What story am I going to eke out today? Oh, I'm gonna drum up this this fallacy around my version of events, what I heard, what I got told. Yeah. Mate, anyone can fucking do that. Anyway, Great journalism. Well done, Tommy. Seriously. So we'll move on from Max and Maisie, and just on them, and let's get positive and talk about some of the really encouraging signs that we saw yesterday. We're playing against the ladder leader, the benchmark. We pushed them all the way. Should have, could have, would have. Yep. We didn't. They won, so fair play. They got over the line. They found a way. But there was a myriad of extremely good performances from yesterday, and I hope we can use them as a springboard for the second half of the year, Ryan. And Maisie was excellent. I thought he was our best player on the field. I thought he was imperious. He had the 9 intercepts, which was the most of any Demon. He was absolutely huge. He was running that back line with Jake Lever. He was ably supported by Daniel Turner, who was fantastic, and I want to speak about him in isolation shortly. But then also Max was awesome himself. He had the 20 disposals, the 40-odd hit-outs. I thought he did a number on Cameron. I thought he definitely got the better of him. He was instrumental in our clearance dominance as well, Max. I thought his ruck craft was really good, and that's an area of his game that maybe cops a little bit of shit at times if we want to get negative about a great player and nitpick him, I guess. But he was awesome as well. So those two were tremendous. Let's not lose sight of the fact that without their output yesterday, we would have been no chance of winning that game of footy, or at least putting ourselves in the position to win it. And then we move on to some of the other performances. And I want to talk about Daniel Turner. So Daniel Turner is a young man that's been in the system for a while. He hasn't had the continuity yet. He's only just finally getting it, which is so nice and so pleasing for him personally. And what we're starting to see, standing there on the MCC wing, just watching him outbody Brody Myercheck, and his positional play and his reading of the ball, and just his timing. His timing is everything, and it looks so effortless now. It looks like he's just arrived as a player. And I get so sick and tired of hearing phrases like, oh, wasted season. It's a wasted season. How the fuck is it a wasted season?
It's not even
Daniel Turner. I know, but exactly.
Yeah.
Daniel Turner is one of the reasons why it's not a wasted season. Jake Bowie is one of the reasons why it's not a wasted season.
Absolutely.
Harvey Langford, Xavier Lindsay. The list goes on. There'll be more that we can speak about. But Daniel Turner, for me, is one of the primary examples of why it's not a wasted season. We are seeing a player blossom before our own very eyes, Ryan. And it is so nice to see because it's, as I said before, it's a young man that couldn't get any continuity. He was injured. He was in and out. He was in and out. We play him forward. We play him back. He looks so settled behind the ball now. And even some Collingwood mates were texting me, and I had a chat with one this morning where he's like, God, Daniel Turner. Geez, that boy can play. And that says everything and speaks volumes because I think he's arrived on the big stage.
Absolutely. And isn't it ironic that it's down back? Because it was probably not the furthest position on the ground, but it was one of the areas we didn't expect to see him. It likened me earlier when it started. I thought, oh, this could be really positive for his forward game to go back, and I do think that's a huge benefit. We saw guys like David Neitz begin back and go forward, and it really helped his forward craft. It helped him understand positioning in the reverse. If you know how to defend, well, then that makes attacking a lot easier when in reverse when you go back down forward. The only thing I would say now is, they were my comments the first 2 weeks, I'm not sure if we're going to see him move from back because he looks damn settled. And we really did need that backman. We didn't know where that next one was coming along to fill the extra needs of May and Lever. Pretty much it looks like we found it. And it looks like we found another big back that's someone going forward. He's young. He looks oddly looks a lot more mobile down back than forward.
He does. And the other thing to mention as well, he's got the number 10 on the back, of course, Angus Brayshaw. Gus would be so proud watching a bloke like him run around, and he's doing that. He's doing the number proud as well, and
he certainly is.
He just looks so good at the level now. So I thought he was brilliant. I thought Jake Bowie, again, just another superb display. What are we? We're 5-8. We're 13 games in. I would argue, Ryan, 10 of them have been excellent. And I'd say he's probably only had 3 off days this season. That's how good his output has been. He's become a consistent contributor. And someone next to me in the standing room yesterday said, he's in the top 3 of the BNF.
He'd be our most improved by a mile. I think, as you say, for consistency, because now this isn't just someone that's coming into the side to make up numbers. This is someone that we're now expecting. He's got a role and we're expecting high level out of him, and he's delivering on a continuous basis. So I think he's been probably the biggest surprise in terms of how many good games he's strung together. So that's been fantastic for me. I absolutely love watching him. It's good to see a little guy go at it because, they have to fight. Let's be honest, they have to fight a lot harder than others to get games. Jake Bowie's not going to walk into every side and just pull the door down. He's not a key position height player. So he has to work for everything he's got, and he's doing a damn good job of it.
He is. Other performances yesterday, Ed Langdon is an obvious one that needs to be spoken about. His tagging role on Nick Dacos. First thing I'll say, it's 2 things here. Was he a little bit overzealous? I think so. He was hanging off him. He was doing a few things that I don't think were probably in the rule book. Collingwood were getting upset about it. Whatever. Yeah. So be it. You've tried to murder 2 of our players in the last 2 King's birthdays, or the last 2 times we've played. So, fuck off, whatever.
We'll get you back.
So he was hanging off him a bit. He'd overstepped the mark. I think the umpire kind of started to square it up a little bit in the second half because Ed probably went too far with it and he got away with it for a little bit there. But I think for the most part, it was an extraordinary job from Ed Langdon and probably something that we didn't know he had in his locker. So I'm really impressed that it's something we could wheel out and it worked, and it's something we could potentially look at again in the future if we need it. And the second part is Nick Dacos. You're a gun, you're a star, you're an incredible footballer, but my God, you're a bit soft, mate. That's the other thing. And this isn't sour grapes. This is just the optics. This is being there, watching it in the flesh. There's reasons why I'd much rather go to the footy and watch a Marcus Bontempelli or a Patrick Cripps. Just the way he throws his arms out, plays for free kicks. Come on, mate. Yep. You don't need to do that. And I think the reference point for me, and people, again, Collingwood supporters might watch this and go, oh, this guy's bitter. Josh Dacos, great player. Plays the game in a fair manner, still side bottom, one of my favourite non-Melbourne players. Melbourne fans won't like hearing that, but I just think he's exceptional. He's honest. He's fair. He's tough. Scott Pendlebury is very much the same. He oozes class. Nick Dacos, you don't have to do it, mate, because you're just tarnishing your skill set and your talents, and you're building a reputation that I don't think you want. And I saw it on show yesterday, and I thought, oh, okay, that's a little bit grubby. That's funny. I didn't know you were like that, Nick, because Josh certainly isn't like that. And I don't know, you just never really like seeing players that are of that caliber, of that ilk, as good as he is,
Yep.
just doing that stuff that makes you walk away and go, oh, really? You're playing that game, are we? I just didn't know he had that in him, and we certainly saw it yesterday.
It's a bit disappointing because you say I just think, I mean, his skill set is just unquestionable and undeniable. We know that. We know how good he is. The problem I have with it is if he does it and he gets it. So I don't know when this is going to go. I mean, he got free kicks and basically almost any opportunity he applied a false touch or hold or anything, he was getting him. So the problem we have is you're not going to stop doing something that you're actually effectively being rewarded for. So when you're in a tough game and a tough tagging situation, like Ed was all over him, he's going to keep looking for that advantage to stop Ed and players like Ed getting that advantage over him. So I can't see that stopping in his game because he's been rewarded for it. And I mean, this also goes back to, and not to go to completely off topic, but our umpiring is in a really dangerous situation. We know the standard has been questioned for a long time, but it's probably at its lowest point, and I can't see where the next crop of people are coming through. But that's when $1 billion organisation has no full-time umpires. Well, hello, where's the pathways for VFL players and former players becoming umpires? We have it in the UFC, we see it in the NFL, we see it in other sports where past players that understand playing the game and that were positioned in the game are able to determine probably free kicks and situations better. It's a horrendously confusing game. We even watch it ourselves and sometimes it's 50-50, maybe 70-30, and we still have no idea where it's going to go. But we've got effectively what looks like lawyers as football umpires, and they can't apply what their knowledge of the game is outside of umpiring because they haven't played at a high level, most of these people. So I'd love to see a pathway as to, instead of ending AFL players and VFL players' careers 3 or 4 years, whatever the average is, make a nice salary into making it go into umpiring, and don't make it such a horrible job that's looked down upon. Make it a very good, lucrative business because it's a phenomenal job and it's going to be there forever and a day, and it needs to be treated a bit better than just part-time, because as much as they did a bad job tomorrow, I think we'd all agree it's a damn hard game to call, and this current regime that's in charge ain't making it any easier for anyone.
I couldn't agree more. And I think people have been speaking about that for a while now. They need to invest in it. They need to embrace it for what it is. It's a very important job.
Yeah.
It's critical, absolutely critical. So I don't understand why they underplay it and they undercut it as well. Doesn't really make any sense because we're making such big investments with football clubs' facilities. We're making big investments with player contracts as well, and we'll speak about Kozzy's mega contract that's on the table soon. But we do all these things around the clubs, their infrastructure, coaching staff, players, like you name it, right? But we cut corners on umpires.
Yeah.
Why are we cutting corners? It just doesn't make any sense given the nature of the beast that is AFL. It is a 360 game. It's never been faster.
Yep.
These athletes are incredible machines, incredible power athletes, running machines. It's chaotic. It is freaking hard to umpire. And I had this conversation with Richie and Rollo, my two nearest and dearest, walking into the ground. And we're like, how do we fix it? And this is one of the things that got thrown up, Ryan. We need to invest. We need to take the time and energy to recalibrate the way it's currently done, because if it stays the way it is, not much is going to change out in the field, I wouldn't have thought.
And where are the next crop coming through? I mean, we're not sitting here with a plethora of people putting their hands up to be umpires. It's not a desirable job, and it really should be. And as I said, we're sitting there scratching our heads going, what are these guys going to do what's life after football look like? Well, shit, we've got a pretty good pathway here, and it shouldn't be a bad pathway. It should be. I mean, I touched on, I know, the UFC. Do you think anyone's arguing with any of those UFC referees? Half of those guys are ex-fighters. So they understand the positioning. They know the little cheap shots that people are doing. That's the same with if you got some of these footballers, and it could just be at VFL level, it doesn't have to be AFL. If they've played at a good enough level, they'll understand positioning, they'll understand holding, they'll understand what to look for more than what looks like a marathon runner with a whistle in his mouth. And that's not being disrespectful to them, but there's literally, we can count on one hand who's played at the top level. And also these guys have to go off to other jobs to make up the remainder of their salary because it's not a full-time job. We keep meeting with the NFL, the EPL, the NBA. We're going over and having these meetings. Have you actually mentioned to them that our umpires are part-time in a billion-dollar industry and see what their reaction would be? They'd laugh at us. So,
Yeah.
I have to cut the umpires some slack as much as I probably don't game day. But they're not helped. And the rules and the way that we're interpreting things are wild. We are sitting there with our eyes pinned and half the time we're like, I don't know. So how are these guys going to be any better if they're not spending much more time than, training on their fitness? They need to be sitting down watching tape, looking at situations and getting more aware of it because they probably haven't played at a really high level, most of these people. So these positionings in the ruck, I mean, the ruck's a mess half the time. You can hold, then you can't touch. Like, that ruck, it's just out of control. 1 minute you can literally bear hug someone and the next you can't even put your arms on their back. So it's just total chaos and no one has any clue. But we saw firsthand on Monday, whenever there was something that was maybe by the letter of the law, it seemed to go one way, not the other. And I know that sounds bitter, but bad luck. So.
People would say, oh, it's funny that these two Melbourne nuffies are talking about the umpires in such great detail. This is a broader problem. This is the league.
It's huge.
We've spoken about on this show many times. We're not fixating on the fact that this is a yesterday problem. This is league wide. I watched so many games on the weekend and I was like, fucking hell.
Yep.
Like it's a crisis at the moment.
I'm turning
the Laura Canes of this world. The Laura Canes of this world will tell you the game's never been better. It's never been worse from an officiating perspective.
Totally.
This is rock bottom. I've watched so many games to the point where I'm starting to lose a little bit of interest. And people wonder, they go, why do you like soccer so much? Because bar the VAR being slightly dodgy and a bit annoying, it's still pretty pure, right? Now, tackles and red cards have changed a little bit and it's a bit annoying. Like if you take ball and man, you can still get sent off for an aggressive tackle and avert tackle. But for the most part, the fundamentals of the game still stack up and they're still pretty similar to the way it was when I was growing up as a child. That's why I prefer it. Because I know typically what I'm going to get, Ryan. Whereas I actually rock up to the footy and I watch games now and I'm like, what fun are we in for today? What controversy is going to happen today? And that as a supporter and as a member of this football club, and for anyone watching and listening and all the neutral clubs out there that sometimes watch this podcast, I don't know why you do, but it's like, thanks for the clicks and the engagement. But I'm one of many people that have the same conversation. Me and all my mates, we're all fucking confused, Ryan. And the confusion, the best way to diffuse that is exactly what you're saying before. It's the investment, it's the time, the energy, the care. It's building a department that is rock solid, well-oiled, and all of these umpires leaning into this idea of this is my job, this is full time.
Yeah.
I'm going to get better, I'm going to hone my craft, we're going to spend more money, we can have more resources built around this thing so we can fix it. Because I know for a fact there are some people, and my brother's one of them included, and there are a few other people in my friendship group who are just like, I can't be bothered because I'm just too confused and it's too unpredictable and the MRO has kind of screwed things up. And then we've got this whole different kettle of fish with head knocks and what's happening with lawsuits. And despite the fact that TV numbers are up and crowds are up and membership numbers are up, that's great. The bottom line looks really good, but I can tell you what, the vibe from a cultural point of view and what everyone's talking about as a rusted-on supporter, it's not great at the moment.
Couldn't agree more. And I think if they can keep patting themselves on the back, look, I mean, this is a current regime. It's not good. We know they're not doing a good job. They know they're not doing a good job. But they're going to keep fluffing up the numbers and telling us how wonderful things are. one of the major things that is helping their TV ratings is, well, the world's broke. Australia is broke, so no one's going out. So you're going to get bigger numbers on these games because people don't have the money to go to the restaurants, the pubs, the clubs, the live shows that they used to do. So Friday night is in front of the TV. But I don't want to be sitting like, and that has been for a while. And Saturday nights, not that you can get it on free to air. Another thing, it was just taken away from the general public under the current regime with no notification. But it's also that situation where you go back and you say, well, what do we do to get things better? I don't know that answer. I do not know that answer, but I know it needs to change significantly because what we're watching at the moment, when I'm sitting on a couch and watching Fremantle and Port Adelaide and getting frustrated about two teams I couldn't care less about, and I'm turning it off, I think we've got a problem. I think we've got a problem. And I don't watch a lot of football compared to what I did because it is frustrating to watch. It's like, it's so annoying to watch other teams, and I couldn't care less about half these games. But you're sitting there going, "Oh my god, this." You're scratching your head, and then Saturday afternoon at 4:40, and you're all of a sudden getting a bit red faced about it. Two teams you couldn't give a shit about, and it's not even because I don't even gamble, so it's got nothing to do with that. It's just this is hard to watch, so I end up turning it off and putting on probably Family Guy or a bloody 78th rerun of the Friends episode just to sort of chill down and have a quick cheap laugh for 5 minutes.
I think there's a big problem we need to take offline, but why are you watching Fremantle and Port, mate? Like,
Hey, okay. Beggars can't be choosers, mate. And sometimes with the way that this fixturing that it works, that's apparently the blockbuster of a Saturday afternoon a lot of these times. So
that's the biggest. That's a bigger problem than our goal kicking issues that we face. Watching that game, come on.
There's a lot of unattractive games. I mean, I could bore you with the fixturing, but I don't know who the hell's been doing that job for a while. But my God, if they knew how to do a blockbuster fixture, then please show me because I haven't seen one for quite some time, and they're still petrified to put the show down on a Friday night standalone. But we're happy to watch. What was it the other week in? Was it Adelaide and
Which one?
Brisbane on a Friday night?
Yeah, that's good.
It's okay. But how's that? We've got to take the American and EPL model. I want hatred. I want to see, if I'm going to watch a neutral game, I know Port Adelaide and Adelaide hate each other.
True.
So I want to see that.
True.
I want to see these two teams that are going to kill each other. I don't want to see Brisbane and sort of a fluffy sunshine team against someone from Adelaide. Doesn't really intrigue me as much. I mean, the game might be good, but play on hatred. That's why Collingwood draws so many people in week after week. If you're hated, you're a moneymaker.
They do. I'm talking about hatred. I'm just so sick and tired of losing to them.
Yeah. When did that happen? When we were shit, we were beating them all the time. When we weren't even that good in the early mid 2000s, we seemed to knock them over all the time. And now we're good, and I know they're very good too, but we just haven't had any luck. Let's be honest, we haven't had luck, and that's what it comes down to. They have won.
They have luck and execution.
Well, execution, you're right. I shouldn't play that down. But in terms of if you go through their last three seasons, since that year of when they won the flag, no one has in the history of the AFL has won closer games, and we haven't taken one this year. We haven't won a game this year that we shouldn't have won. We've only won the ones we should have won. They have won already quite a few that they shouldn't have. So that in lies where I don't think we're as bad as people like to think we are. We control much more of our own destiny than we give ourselves credit for. When people were going crazy again after the Alice Springs game, I said, you're carrying on like we're not getting it inside 50. You're carrying on like we're not attacking from getting out of the back line. You're carrying on like we're not doing good in the midfield. We're just kicking shit, and I know that's a massive problem, but at least for years we didn't even get those opportunities. Now we're getting them. Once that corrects itself, we knocked off the two grand finalists like nothing else, and we should have beaten Collingwood, who's a genuine flag contender. We're not near as bad as people are trying to make out.
We're not. It's just so close, but yet so far. That's the perfect way to sum up Melbourne at the moment. It's been the perfect way to sum up Melbourne for the last 3 or 4 years under Goodwin or since flag. There's too many performances where we're in control and we fluff our lines. And it's just another one to add to the list from yesterday. And it's terribly frustrating. However, I agree with you. There are parts of our game that are really starting to stack up and really starting to emerge. We've figured out the forward handball game that I mentioned earlier. We're scoring more from defensive half, which is always the trait of a good side. Defensively behind the ball, we look really rock solid. The back 6, 7 are in sync now. They're working really well. We've had some continuity there without personnel going down, so that's been good. Midfield-wise, clearance game, contested game is in really, really good nick. So Nathan Jones is doing a superb job ever since the 0-5. Forward half, we've started to create opportunities and started to score. Is it perfect? No. It won't be perfect when we've got a guy like Harrison Petty that will eventually move down back again, I think, and replace Steven May, who's only got one more year after this one. And Jake Melksham's not going to be around forever. And he was quiet in the first half and came to life in the second, and he competed so well against Moore and Frampton. And we're asking so much of Jake. He's not a big guy.
I agree exactly. And sorry to cut you off there, but I just wanted to jump.
Yeah.
I thought Melksham was really pivotal in the end when it was sort of the game was really on, and I thought, we are making this guy play like a big key size guy, and quite frankly, he's not. Like, we make him play a lot bigger, and he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's had some serious injuries, as we know too. I just thought there was moments yesterday where he really stood tall, and not his greatest game by any stretch, but when it was there to be, the game was there to be won. I don't think he was that bad.
No, he was good, and he sprung to life. I thought he kept us in it in the third quarter.
Yep.
He really got to work. But just my point there is I think defensively we're in pretty good shape. We've got some options there. Disco's gone back. He's looking really rock solid. And, of course, after Stephen goes, I mentioned it, Petty will come back in. But our medium backs are really promising.
Yep.
McVee, Bowie, exceptional. Christian Salem's been pretty good, but, again, he won't be around forever. I think defensively, I'm pretty content. I think we've got the right core group coming through there. Midfield-wise, we obviously need a little bit more polish. It helps that we've got Kozzy rotating through there. I think Trent Rivers, who was iffy yesterday by disposal, I thought he still played a good game. I just think he let himself down a few too many times. Clayton Oliver, again, an absolute contested winning beast. So is Christian Petrarca. We've just got to complement those guys with some polish. Maybe Caleb Windsor will go in there eventually.
Yep.
We know Harvey Langford will eventually go through there.
Beast hard.
So I think he's a big boy, and he's going to be an exceptional talent when he goes into the midfield and he's ready. But I think defensively, pretty good, and I'm happy with the progression and where it's all heading. Midfield, we've got enough options there. Again, I think we're stocked. I think we're fine. We're just having the same conversation about the forward line, and it really is those two tall key pillars. It's Harrison Petty is a patch job, and Jake Melksham is potentially last year. Potentially.
Yep.
He might go around again next year. He's not going to be there forever.
He always has good contract years, though. That's the one thing I will say with Jake. If you go back and have a look at his contract years, my goodness, I think that man knows when there's the pen and paper coming.
No, it's true. But the thing that's frustrating is it's just we need to find those two options. And I feel for Jacob Van Rooyen, because if I'm only playing 60% of game time like he did yesterday, and you're being expected to play as the second ruck, and then when you're not playing second ruck, you're spending little spurts of time up forward, how are you going to build some consistency in your game? How are you going to get involved in the game enough from a forward perspective after you've run around as a second ruck and bashed and crashed against a bigger body? How is that going to be of a benefit to you if your primary role in the team is to become the forward we all hope that he'll become one day? So I feel for Jacob at the moment. I don't think it's fair on him. Some people will say, tough titties, it is what it is. Like, he's got to find a way. He's got to work through it. I mean, what I just said speaks for itself.
Yep.
It's not a lot of game time. You're bashing and crashing in the second ruck, and then you're expected to go down forward and compete and get up to the level of the game when it's almost like you're constantly just chopping and changing over the course of a match. That can be quite disorienting, quite confusing for a young man like him.
Absolutely.
I think we've got to get to a world, Ryan, with him where we just leave him as a stay-at-home forward. We find a way to potentially bin the second ruck role, and we give him more time on ground. And I think just in this second half, just give him a chance to try and blossom as a key forward again.
Yeah, continuity is beyond key here. And look, to be honest, for Jacob, probably touching on what you said, sometimes systems just don't suit an individual. And as much as we absolutely love him, if we're being totally truthful here, our system doesn't actually quite suit where his football is right at this very moment. He could have probably slotted into another side, a Geelong or something, and probably found an easier way into a team and a forward position. It is what it is. We don't want to lose him. I think he's got a huge upside, and I think people can see that. Of course, it's frustrating because once bitten, twice shy. We saw what Hogan could have been, and then that disappeared. We saw what we thought Watts could be, and then that disappeared. So we're mindful of having guys that could be key size or key forwards, not key size, because really Hogan was never fully a key size. He just played bigger than he was. But we ended up not getting anywhere with them. So we're desperate. We're crying out for a forward line. I think on paper, our forward line is actually pretty good. And that's probably, again, my frustration with this is when you look at it, I mean, okay, paper's one thing to execution, but the names aren't bad. There's nothing wrong, and they've all done their own thing. And I mean, Kozzy this year is seriously all Australian. Like, I just can't see how he couldn't possibly be in the side. And we're seeing flashes, like even Fritsch yesterday, like 3 really critical goals in a pretty low scoring game. So this flash in the pan thing, the unpredictability can sometimes be a good thing, but it can also be your undoing.
Good point on Fritter, and someone I quickly wanted to speak about, and then we can start to wind this down and talk about Kozzy, because there's a big update with his contract. You can hear it in my voice. I'm getting excited. But Bayley Fritsch is getting back to the player that we have cherished for many years. He was off the boil last year in 2024, and certainly off the boil early this year and got dropped, and then he was made the sub. And that sub performance when he came on against Brisbane was electric.
Yep.
He was superb that day. He had a big say on us winning that game in that last quarter. And yesterday we saw some of his best again. He was so dangerous. He had 17 disposals, which is a high disposal count for him. He had 5 marks and he kicked those 3 crucial goals. People have a dig at him for playing on, and he should have had more awareness. Quaynor was right next to him. He could have gone back and slotted it from 25, not much of an angle.
Yep.
I think people forget he somewhat makes up for it moments later, where he's got that sweeping hand pass into Kozzy, who picks it up at full speed and snaps it around the corner. I was saying to a few boys in the standing room, Ryan, I was like, if I tried that at the park 100 times, I might do it once, maybe once out of 100, whereas Kozzy just made that look stupidly easy. The level of skill needed to do that was just insane. So people having a go at Fritter, oh, he cost you, he needed to go back and slot that goal. Well, he kind of makes up for it, because we then go and get the goal that would have never happened had Fritsch not have played on, and he set that goal up for Kozzy, albeit what's his part in that? 5%? Cos did all the work.
He did.
But it's a bit irrelevant to me. Yep. People going, oh, Fritter cost you. And I'm like, well, no, because we go and get that goal anyway that gets us ahead by a kick, and he was involved in it. So
I call those 7-point plays, mate. They're crucial. So, I don't get me wrong. I know I look too much at the glass half full, but that is a 7-point play at its greatest. So, you could have got the goal, gone back to the middle. We didn't. We got the point and came back and quickly slotted another one. So, sometimes they work in your favour, ironically. But I thought he did play a really crucial part in the game. And there's so many moments that we can pick apart in any game. It doesn't matter what you do. If you watch any game, whether win, lose, draw, or otherwise, that you can focus on moments that were really crucial that didn't go your way. We had more than normal. We know that. Now the opportunity comes this weekend where we rectify that and we put that practice into play, and we have to. Like, now we put ourselves in a situation where every post for the next month must be a winner, and it can't not be, because we've just slipped up 2 really crucial games that should have been ours. We dropped the 4 points in round 1 that should have been ours. We've just dropped the last 2 weeks that should have been ours. That is totally the difference as to why people are able to continually lay the boots from an outside in on our club, because those 3 games make us look ordinary, and we're a lot better than ordinary.
Yeah, we are. We're clearly one of the better teams outside the 8. The Western Bulldogs definitely got our measure, you'd have to say, and I don't know what's going on with them. They should have got the job done against the Hawks the other night. But We said it on the podcast, I think on Thursday last week. You could easily mount a case that Melbourne, at a bare minimum, are the 10th best side in it. And there's probably a bunch of teams between 6 to 10, and I would argue that we could go and beat a few of them as well. And we had Hawthorn potentially on the ropes there, but couldn't finish off our work. So I think we're definitely in and around the mix. And if you strip it back and not look at the 5-8, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
But if you isolate what we've been doing in the past 8 weeks, Ryan, since that terrible start, clearly we're a much better team than our ladder position shows at the moment. I just think I'm not season dead yet, like some are. A lot of it will depend on what happens in the next few weeks. We almost have to do this, in my opinion. We've got to go and beat Port, which is a bit of a no-brainer.
Yep.
We get to 6 and 8 and we have a bye. You get to 6 and 8 in similar areas to what Hawthorn and Brisbane were last year, right? You reset and then you go up and you play Gold Coast, and we've got a pretty favourable record there, and we've got a score to settle rather with them because of what they did to us earlier in the season. And then we go away to Adelaide the week after. So we've got to at least pinch one of Suns and Adelaide, one or the other, on the proviso that we get the job done against Port Adelaide. And then you're at 7-9 with a 4-game stretch that on paper looks, I wouldn't call it easy because there are no real easy games in this competition. I would just say getting to 7 and 9 at least gives us some hope that if we capitalise on that 4-game run, we've still got genuine life in our season. Yeah. All of this is a moot point and all of this is irrelevant if we don't beat Port Adelaide this week. And if we don't, I think, pinch a win against the Suns or Adelaide on the road. If we can get to 7-9, I still believe in this season and I still think we can come home with a wet sail. That's what we've got ourselves in for now. The most frustrating part, we shouldn't even be speaking about this, the idea of getting to 7 and 9. In theory, we should be talking bare minimum 8-8 or even better than that. Yeah. But that's where we are now, and that's the only chance we've got to revive our season, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And it is an open season. We know that. I don't think there's a genuine standout that can't be beaten. So we're in a very open year where the premiers aren't necessarily just going to be sides 1 and 2 as they weren't last year. So we can see that again, and we've seen where the Dogs came from in 7th. It feels like it's one of those years. Yeah, there's always going to be, the top 2 sides are always going to look good, but they're not looking head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. We know we can mix it with the premiers. We've beaten them over there. We know we can mix it with Collingwood. We should have beaten them. They're 2 teams that probably, quite frankly, are going to be playing off to get into that grand final, if not, if realistically, and probably what most people think will be the grand final right now. We should have beaten both of those teams. We certainly took care of one of them. So I don't see it being a lost season. As you say, I just think it's this month coming ahead is so super crucial. But again, don't forget that we are coming on into a home stretch of games where we're on the road every second week at the moment. And we're going to come into a really nice end of where we just basically sit in Victoria, and we will control a lot more of our end of our season. And hopefully we don't get into that situation where percentage means anything, because it means we'll have done enough.
Yeah, so some people have said it's a wasted season, as I said before off the top. I really hope, and Max Gorn, to reference him again from this morning, he spoke about how internally they think there's plenty of life still left in our campaign. I really, really, really hope that the playing group are channeling that.
Yep.
As a supporter, I'm not giving up on it. I think we've got to dig deep. I think we've shown more than enough in this 7-8 week patch that we can mix it with the best. We can beat the best. We can go on a run again. We can string a lot of wins together and we can get ourselves into that finals mix. We've just got some real hard work in front of us in the next month. So that's where I sit with it.
I wouldn't be disappointed if we just sat in front of goals, and I don't think any Melbourne supporter around the country would have a problem if Goody just sat the entire team in front of goals for the next 2 weeks and did nothing else, because the rest of our game seems okay, but goal kicking clearly isn't. So I don't understand if it's the hamstrings or what, but we just don't seem to be doing enough of it. Everyone says that they do, but you can't be. If you practiced your craft, that often. I remember Larry Bird used to shoot 10,000 free throws a day. That guy could hit them from anywhere. I'm not saying we go back and line up 10,000 times a game, but if repetition is what makes a habit, and a habit is generally something that you do often over and over. And if you do it well as a footballer, well, not only will you get paid, but shit, you'll get some good wins on the way as well.
To wrap, Kozzy Pickett, mega deal. He's got 2 more years on his contract. Apparently it's a 5-year extension. My mail is it'll be somewhere in the vicinity of the early $1.2 million a year. Melbourne are absolutely trying to lock down this superstar who could get his first All-Australian this year.
Should.
Kozzy is a phenomenal talent. He's one of the most exciting players that I've ever seen as a Melbourne supporter. He's generational, as we know. People liken him to Cyril Rioli. We just must simply do what we need to do to get a deal done over the line. Now, I'm being told that the club are pretty bloody confident that he will sign, that we'll get it there. That gets me terribly excited, Ryan, because these blokes don't grow on trees, and the modern game, as we've seen over probably the last 10 years, if you stretch back that far, it is this hybrid forward, mid, Dusty Martin, probably the best exponent of it that I've seen. It's such a crucial part of the game now, and these are the types of players that you throw the checkbook at. And he loves the club. The fans love him. The players love him. The coaches love him. We all love him, and we want him to sign. And I'm hearing some really positive news that it'll get done. Don't give me a percentage meter on that because I don't want to be quoted. But just put it this way: I'm feeling like it's likelier than it is not likely. And I even said that on Robbo's rundown with the great man Russell Robertson a couple of weeks ago, that I think I was in the 70-30 bracket. I'll just stay with that because that's what I quoted a couple of weeks ago. If we get this done, Ryan, oh my God. You talk about luring other players to the football club. Come and play with Kozzy Pickett, one of the great talents in the sport, one of the most exciting players that the league has seen. And yeah, if we get it done, it's going to be a huge coup for the club because obviously he's going to be integral to our success long term.
Absolutely, and we have to do it at all costs. I'd go get on that phone, call Vizzy, get that paper bag they gave Chris James, make it happen. I do not care. Go down to Geelong, find out who's employing players at ice cream shops for one shift. Wherever we can do this, they can come in. Kozzy can come and do an event with me at Slater and Swan. I'll pay him a brown paper bag. Don't you worry about that. But we have to get this done at all costs because he's just so crucial. He's a real barometer. Like when he's going well, Melbourne's going well. And he truly is one of those barometer players that you can measure where that football team is at that timing point. It's very rare Melbourne's having an amazing run and he's in bad form.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's terribly exciting. I've just got to try and keep a lid on it.
No, you don't.
Keep the lid on.
No, you don't.
It's not that.
You need to hang out with me, mate. I never keep a lid on everything. That's why I drive everyone nuts. We're winning every year. We're winning every game. Don't worry about it. It's a delusional world to live in, but it's pretty fun.
No, it's good. It's good. So we can wrap up on a bit of Kozzy news and just a quick mention to Clayton Oliver. I thought he was great yesterday.
He was great.
Yes, he lacked a bit of polish, but he had 39 clearances, 7 tackles. He was our number one pressure player on the ground. He was awesome. And it's funny. It's a 1-point ball game. Everyone's talking about a stupid incident and giving it far more airtime than it should have. And I think it overshadowed the fact that Clary had a big game and flipped the script. Melbourne win by a point. It's a famous victory. I guarantee you there would have been inch columns and reporters waxing lyrical about Clayton Oliver yesterday. They're not. But I just wanted to mention that because I thought he was awesome.
I love it. And I think that's the one thing that annoys me when a game is so close. You go from speaking about a team and a person in one manner to, as we touched on earlier, we're talking about May and Gorn. That doesn't get spoken about if Melbourne win. It might get swept. It might get just touched over. Be swept under the rug. It was so close to being a perfect Monday. It was a hell of a performance without getting the chocolates. It was a big day for Neil, big day for the football club, big day for MND. We didn't have a Hollywood script, unfortunately. But yeah, maybe if some of those dodgy free kicks and 50-metre penalties didn't go our way, I'm going to get one more final dig in. Maybe if that had have gone our way, we wouldn't be able to be spoken about the way we are today.
No, well said. And Neil Daniher, an inspiration, the Guard of Honour yesterday, just amazing to be one individual of 77 odd thousand, and you being one of them as well, Ryan. It felt like a goodbye. I was pretty emotional in the stands. I just love him.
Yeah.
Love everything about him. I've had the pleasure and joy once upon a time meeting him a couple of times, and I felt the man's aura. He's incredible. He's extraordinary. It was this beautiful unification of Collingwood and Melbourne supporters coming together yesterday to celebrate what the man has done with Fight MND and the Big Freeze. And it was really, really special. It was spine tingling. And if it is a goodbye, his legacy will live on forever and the fight against the beast will continue. And it's just so heartwarming to see how many people have embraced this organisation and this cause, and the little bit of fun that they have with it as well, and the sliders and all different walks of life and different celebrities with different fandom jumping on board and getting involved and using their platforms. It's incredible, Ryan. And I love the man, and he's a Melbourne great and an incredible coach, and we punched above our weight with Neil, and still some of my fondest memories as a child are those teams that he coached.
Should have got a flag too. We were good enough.
Should have got a flag. 98, missed opportunity. 2000, we came up against one of the greatest teams ever. But we were a good outfit and we were resilient, and resilience is what Neil is. And for him to go around the MCG and get the applause, richly deserved applause, and an All-Australian that is richly deserved as well, was everything to us as supporters, and everything about the good of the AFL. There's a lot of stuff we slag off, Ryan. Yep. The most beautiful thing about the AFL is how it brings people together. So we talk about P&Ls and the umpiring decisions and how they need to invest more time and energy into it. One of the most beautiful things about it is it brings people together, and Neil and Fight MND and Beck and everyone that puts in a power of work, they've brought everyone together. It's phenomenal.
I love that. I think it's extremely important that we keep celebrating this. I'd love, even though we all know it as originally as King's, Queen's birthday, whatever you want to call it, I just love if we could just remove that tag from the game completely and just call it Neil's game or MND game, because this is what's made this a spectacle. It's what Neil's done, what Neil's created through being the most selfless person in Australia. And okay, he got the Australian Award this year, but I can't believe it took those people in Parliament House that long to do it. It was so far overdue. It was embarrassing that it took as long as it did, but thankfully it happened while he was still here. That would have been the greatest misjudgment to have had Neil potentially pass and him not have received that award in person. So thankfully it was done when it was done. But I just love it. It brings both Melbourne and Collingwood together. There's not a hatred. We're two really big clubs from a powerful era in the 50s, 60s. We know that. But there's not a hatred between the two clubs like there used to be. And this game unifies it even more so. And you start seeing the good about football. You start seeing the good about the world. And what Neil's doing is totally selfless, because we all talk about people with bucket lists and checklists. If you got told you only had this long, would you be doing what Neil's doing? I mean, would any of us be doing what Neil's doing? Neil's given his final days in hope that people don't have to do and suffer the way he has. And that makes him one of the greatest people that we will see. And it's got nothing to do with what he's done on the field. It's now what he's doing off the field. And he is another version of Jim Steins. He's someone that was celebrated on the field, but their legacy off is just as big.
Yep, and I've often said that. Melbourne, one flag in how many years is it? 61 years. It's not a great record. We do have 12 other premierships, so we've got 13 in total, but we've seen some really, really barren years, Ryan. We've seen some tough times that I don't wish upon other opposition supporters. We've been through the mire, but the one thing I've always stood up for and vouched for is Melbourne Football Club have had some incredible people. incredible people. Some of the best people in the caper. Ron Barassi, his impact. Robbie Flower, his impact. Jim Steins, of course, his impact. And then we speak about Neil Daniher and his impact. And that's the one thing that the Melbourne Football Club has trotted out in their existence, is they've created some remarkable people who've had a remarkable impact on the game of Australian rules football. And Neil is certainly towards the very top of that list in terms of the league itself, not just the Melbourne Football Club. So that's one thing that I'm really proud about being a Melbourne Football Club supporter, is we've got great people with great values, and we'll continue to have great people with great values. But Neil, oh my God, you are everything. You're a legend. You're an icon. You're an extraordinary human being. And if it is the last time, we'll ensure as a football community that we'll continue to do everything we can to retain the values of the occasion, but not only that, continue to fight the beast along with Beck and all of their beautiful family. But Ryan, we're going to wrap it up there. It was a really tough one, a bit of pill to swallow yesterday against the Pies. Good luck on the road over there against Port.
Looking forward to it. I'll be cheering there, so I'm looking forward to ruffling a few feathers while I'm over there, mate. Don't worry about that.
I've heard about a few of these incidents.
Yeah, they're quite funny.
Yeah, but I'll be on the couch, I think, watching it at home with the two young ones. And hopefully we can get the chocolates, get back on track, breathe a little bit of life into our season, because in my opinion, it's certainly not done. But, mate, it's always a pleasure having you on. I always get a lot of great feedback every time I have you on, and I should probably get you on more because, yeah, every time I have an hour with you, I always feel better for the experience. So thank you for jumping on.
Likewise, mate. Always a pleasure.